Good morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Calvin Mutenoff coming to you live from our studio here at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. You can call. You can text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Very, very busy show coming up for you. After the 9:30 news, Dr. Kristen Lively is going to join us, and we're going to talk about this bombing of an IVF clinic that happened in Palm Springs over the weekend. Also a different case in Georgia that is raising many questions. And Dr. Lively will be here after 9:30. In hour number 2, she's the fabulous farm babe. It's been way too long since we had Pam Yankee on the show. Among many other things, we're going to talk about mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we want to talk about mental health and farmers. And we've talked about this a lot of times before with Pam and what services are available to farmers. Again, can be very stoic people.
Yeah.
Don't want to talk about things out loud. I can handle this myself.
I got things to do.
I got things to
time.
do. Yeah, exactly. So the fabulous farm babe, Pam Yankee, joining us after 10 o'clock. At 10:35, there's a great article about Wisconsin State Parks celebrating 125 years. So we're going to love on our state parks a little bit and find out which is your favorite state park in Wisconsin. And then we're going to share the best of the worst reviews of Wisconsin state parks.
I may or may not adopt voices.
Oh, it's going to be so worth it.
Yeah.
That's our audio sorbet segment at 10:35. And then we'll wrap up the show as we always do with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Calvin found this one. It's I'm going to mule it over. Let's mule it over. That's coming up around 10:51, so stick around for that. Right now, though, I did want to mention over the weekend, remember Donald Trump?
No. Who?
When he was running for president, talking about the most beautiful word in the world, tariffs.
Yeah.
So many beautiful things, but that's among the most beautiful things are tariffs, because other countries have to pay for them. Yeah, that's not actually how tariffs work. And now we have the president's own words essentially confirming this. This is from CNBC, published over the weekend. Trump tells Walmart to eat the tariffs after the retailer warned it would be raising its prices. We mentioned this on Friday.
Jane, we've been talking about tariffs and what they mean for months now, but yeah, this one now is finally, he is not only has he come to the realization that he was wrong, he's now getting in the faces of businesses to say, suck it up and deal with it.
Yeah. Well, again, we told you Friday that Walmart had mentioned that they were going to start raising prices because of the tariffs.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, but China pays the tariffs, Trump is now saying, Walmart, you should eat it. So you don't have to pass on the cost to customers.
To be fair, they could probably eat the tariffs. They probably could. It would.
Of course they could.
It would cut into their
billions,
tens of billions of dollars they make a year. But also, they shouldn't have to. They're a private. They love private business, Jane. They're all about business. And one thing they hate, Jane, is when government gets in the way of
nanny state,
enterprise, and the market. So, is this the GOP? Is this the Republican Party? Because it seems like just angry grandpas yelling at people.
Also, over the weekend, Scott Bessent.
Oh, your favorite person.
He is one of my favorite people in the Trump administration. He was on MSNBC over the weekend saying, quote, I was on the phone with Doug McMillon, the CEO of Walmart yesterday, and Walmart is, in fact, going to eat some of the tariffs, unquote. Contrast that, which happened over the weekend, to this morning from the White House press office, Carolyn Levitt.
Oh, God.
Quote, from this morning, the reality is, as the president has always maintained, the Chinese producers will be absorbing the cost of these tariffs, unquote. That's a lie.
No. Actually, they will absorb the cost. They'll pay for the cost.
And then they'll pass that on.
Exactly. there's another half of that equation she's not being upfront about. But it's fine. It's not like this hasn't been talked about ad nauseum for months now. And also, I think, what's his name?
Besant.
I think he's lying. There's no way Walmart said, okay.
Well, when we're talking about 30% tariff and he says Walmart will eat some of the tariffs, there's a lot of wiggle room there in that sum.
Yeah.
If the tariff is 30% and Walmart says, yeah, we'll eat 3% of it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All they need is that to claim victory. This weekend, there's a gentleman who I am friends with on Facebook who posted a laundry list of accomplishments of the Trump administration of the past 7 days. I'm not going to get into them right now. Maybe we can look at that later, but I will say this. Those statements, all of them, were a one Google search to find out the truth. It's always about posting the victories, never the nuance, never the detail. We made a deal with China. You did not. You put it all on hold for 90 days. And then we're going to have to do this all. It's kind of like, a continuing resolution. In 90 days, we have to come back and
revisit
kick it around again.
Yep.
So, yeah, I want to know the exact number Walmart says they're willing to.
And I would bet you money that they will never say how much, what of that 30% they're going to suck up.
If it goes above 3%, Jane, I will actually be impressed.
I would agree with you. Something else that happened over the weekend, the Wisconsin GOP convention was held. Couple interesting things to take away from this. Again, we had mentioned, if you were watching the end of Up North with Civic Media Mornings with Pat Kreitlow.
Mornings with Pat Kreitlow.
That too. Dr. Lyerly filling in for him. Tim Michaels was reportedly at the GOP convention in Wisconsin over the weekend.
He must be so bored.
Right? Nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Don't you have a yacht somewhere you want to go visit?
Don't you have a business to run?
Well,
there's buildings all over the state with your name on it.
I think his brothers do that.
Yeah.
But yes, not a big surprise. The Wisconsin Republican Convention delegates back the resolution to enforce the strict 1849 abortion ban. So they all voted they approved a party resolution calling for Wisconsin to enforce the 1849 abortion ban. This vote essentially carries no authority, but it shows essentially that the party is pretty much unified behind that, which essentially offers no help for women who are pregnant, who might have problems with a pregnancy, unless the mother is going to die.
Yeah. Another thing that Dr. Lively had a gentleman named Alan Tipple, who's one of the organizers for a thing called Men for Choice. Men for the number 4 choice. And I think one of the things we need to also say in our language is that there's no help for women who are pregnant. There's no help for family going through it. There's no help for, we need to make it, make this inclusive. We need to make sure that people understand it affects the woman, it affects the person who's pregnant.
But the entire family.
The entire family.
Absolutely.
It affects our communities, and that's made up of all different kinds of people.
Yep.
So that's something that I keep on telling myself, it's not just the pregnant person.
No, you're right.
So yeah, shocking. 1849. Let's go back to the middle of the 19th.
The good old days was the good old days, Greg.
Jane, when you were pretty much property. You didn't have to worry about anything.
Things were so good back then. Let's go back to the 1850s. 855-752-4842 if you would like to join our conversation. Cindy from Appleton on the line. Good morning, Cindy. Thanks for joining us. Did you go to the GOP convention? I'm kidding.
Oh, God, I love that.
Oh, my God. I wouldn't be able to eat for a month if I did that. Of course, I could lose a few pounds. But anyway, it takes 2 to make a baby. So this affects men just as much as it affects women.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I really honestly don't think the abortion issue is such a big issue anymore because it obviously did not affect the last election. So
you don't think it's important?
I don't think. I thought Dr. Lyerly would have this hands down because of that issue, and it didn't seem to even phase anything. So I just don't think women care about their rights anymore, to be perfectly honest with you.
That's interesting, Cindy. I appreciate your perspective. I'm not certain that I agree with that, but Donald Trump got reelected.
I think I understand. I absolutely understand the sentiment of it. That my friends who are female when things like this happen, the constant line is always they're voting against their interest. They always seem to vote against their interest. Now, that is what they say. I'm not making that claim but I understand where Cindy is coming from when a wide variety of people say, we want this man and this party who is going to systematically pick away at our rights and our freedom, that, yeah, they're voting out of their interest or
against their
interest. And it does not make sense. I mean, we thought that all these kids lined up, and this is on us. We thought all these kids lined up in colleges across the country ready to vote early. We're like, oh, well, they're not going to vote for him.
And they did.
They did, because I've said it before, and I'm going to keep saying it until it's not true. Donald Trump, the brand, is cool. I don't get it, but it is.
One other little takeaway before we go to the break here. Derek Van Orton has an interesting idea about how we run our elections in Wisconsin, especially for ones, I don't know, that like Republicans lose.
Yeah.
We have a clip from Derek Van Orton from over the weekend at the Wisconsin GOP convention. Calvin, can you hit that clip, please?
What do you think went wrong, or what goes wrong in spring elections here in Wisconsin?
Republicans don't vote, period. Like, we just don't vote in spring elections.
How do you change that?
I don't think we should have a spring election.
Oh!
I think we need to, these guys in the State House, I think they should get rid of that and fold it into a midterm or a 4-year cycle.
Yeah, we don't win in spring elections because our constituents don't vote. So let's not have that election anymore. That'll fix that problem.
Jane, that's a real folksy way of saying let's suppress votes. That's just
I just gotta kind of give him credit for saying it out loud.
Jane, I'll give him credit for not yelling at the reporter. I mean, it just seems
True,
like progress.
That's true.
But yeah, I think we need to get rid of it. Oh, huh?
Yeah, our constituents don't vote in spring elections. So rather than, I don't know, maybe improving our messaging or improving our platform to encourage people to get out and vote, no, we're not going to do any of that. We just want to stop that election because that'll take care of this problem.
Well, Jane, it's apparently the Republicans don't vote. They never vote, which is wrong. They do vote. They just lose maybe in those elections. But also, if they don't vote, then what's the point, Jane?
Right.
If they're not coming out, then we don't need to do this at all. They're the ones that are important. It's not those, Marxists, feminists, caravan riding, communists who are coming in to, vote in the dozens in the spring.
Let's not have it. Let's just not have that election.
Whomever's going to run against Derek Van Orton next year should take that quote and make it the centerpiece. To me, closing down elections, please.
There are so many quotes that you could use to run on.
Yeah.
Seriously. All right. We have a break coming up. We will be right back. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Don't go away. Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Sweet Calby on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up after the 9:30 news, Dr. Kristen Lyerly will join us. Stick around for that. Hour number 2, the fabulous farm babe, Pam Yankee, will be here, and we're going to be talking about Wisconsin farmers and mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, among many other things, with Pam Yankee, so I hope you can stick around for that. Also, a reminder to join Todd Alba, our friend and colleague, from 2 to 4 today. He is going to have State Senator Kelda Royce on. They're going to have an update on the budget negotiations among the Joint Finance Committee. That should be an interesting discussion. Seems like there's cross purposes there, some different priorities, shall we say.
I like the way you said that so diplomatically.
Right? I'm trying.
It's very, very appeal to the people.
Thank you. So that's all coming up a little bit later on. Todd Alba today from 2 to 4 p.m. I did want to mention this, though. Of course, we had tornadoes in Wisconsin last week that hit Dodge County pretty hard. Now we have this from the Associated Press. Residents digging out from tornado damage after storms killed 28 in Kentucky, Missouri, and Virginia. And if you look at, again, tornadoes they're just so astonishingly destructive.
Yes.
It's just horrifying. You look at some of these pictures, it's just a nightmare for these folks.
It's not to be this. I'm not poking light this because I've heard people, I've actually heard comedians make jokes about this, but tornadoes, like if you're in the middle of a hurricane, we're all in this together. But tornadoes can it can literally destroy one house.
Yeah.
And be on its way. It is one of the most unpredictable, most destructive things around. And Brittany Merlot was saying this morning that our usual is about 23 a year here in the state.
In Wisconsin?
Yeah, last year was 45. And Tornado Alley, that
swath of the country
is slowly enveloping Wisconsin.
It's moving north.
Moving north, yes.
Well, again, if you want to help out these folks, you can always make a donation to the Red Cross. It's probably one of the best ways to do it.
Yeah.
I'm always very twitchy about things that show up on social media. Make a donation here, make a donation here. You want to really make sure you vet those things to make sure it's not a scammer. But I know if you give to the Red Cross, that's one good way to do it. Donating blood is always a good way to do it. There is always a need for blood donors. But we certainly send our thoughts and prayers to the folks in these affected states. And I don't know whether or not they're going to be making disaster declarations and whether or not there's going to be any help from FEMA. Because, again, the head of FEMA just got fired. The head of FEMA was testifying before Congress and essentially said getting rid of FEMA and expecting states to pick it up is a really bad idea. And the next day, he got fired.
And we've been seeing in the past month or so, the president's been in office for
4 months.
4 months. About 4 months now. We've seen traditional deep red states saying, hey, we need help, and being told, no, sorry, maybe you can get the money somewhere else.
You better figure it out.
Yeah, these are people who voted for this administration, and that's the only, I say, comforting notion that it's going to be hard for all of us versus Arkansas gets a lot of money, but California, you got to do this. They're just going to turn their back on everyone.
Well, that remains to be seen.
Well,
I still think that red state governors might have a little bit more of an in and get a little bit more of a better response. We'll see what happens with Kentucky because Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, is a Democrat.
Yes, he is.
One other thing we wanted to mention before we go to the bottom of the hour news, and I'm imagining that you heard about this over the weekend, but former President Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer.
Yeah.
Prostate cancer is not unusual for men as they get older.
Absolutely.
This is my understanding anyway. We can clarify this a little bit more with Dr. Lyerly when she joins us. But Biden was evaluated after a small nodule was found that necessitated further evaluation. He said in a tweet this morning, cancer touches us all. Like so many of you, Jill and I have learned that we are strongest in the broken places. Thank you for lifting us up with love and support.
And we'll talk about this with Dr. Lyerly as well as we usually do, but it should be a wake up call for especially men.
Go to the doctor, guys.
And a lot of time, I don't say a lot of times, but it's not just a matter of I'm too tough or I'm too like I don't want to go to the doctor. Sometimes it is scared. A lot of people are scared of the doctors.
It's like I don't want to go because I don't want to know.
I don't want to know. Also, I might not be able to pay, but also a lot of times, a lot of men, and I've known many who've done this, who will say like, "I'll do it later. I got stuff to do. I gotta take the kids to the thing, and I gotta go to the thing to do the thing, and I got this thing and work. There's always work, Jane.
Sure.
And then before you know it, it's now it's a reactive state instead of a proactive state. So go to the GP, get that physical. If you're over a certain age, get that colonoscopy, get that checkup, get your heart checked. Please get your hearts checked. And don't make excuses. I know it's tough and I know it can be expensive, but
preventative is always better.
Preventive is always
if you can catch it ahead of time.
And sometimes it's covered.
Yep. News is coming up next. When we return, Dr. Kristen Lyerly will be here, so stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll be right back.
Your mood is like a circus wheel. You're changing all the time. Sometimes I can't help but feel that I'm wasting all of my time. Think I'm looking on the dark side, but every
morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvinator on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. Join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. And if you do not yet have the Civic Media app, you should get it right now. Go to wherever you get your apps. Look for Civic Media, CIVIC. Download the Civic Media app so you will be ready come this Friday when we have a 4-pack of Brewers tickets up for grabs across the network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So starts with Mornings with Pat Kreitlow on Friday, then our show, Matenaer On Air, Tom Hartman, Todd Alba, and Maggie Dawn. Coming up on Friday, your chance, a statewide text-to-win contest to pick up a 4-pack of tickets to see the Milwaukee Brewers, but you have to enter via the app. So download it right now. It's really great. When I was working in the garden this weekend, I went and got some flowers, and I was listening to Jim Santel on the app.
Nice.
Just have it out in the garden with you. So download the Civic Media app. It is completely free. Joining us, she just got off the air, and now she's back on the air. Dr. Kristen Lyerly is here. How are you, my friend?
Ta-dam!
Ta-da!
You just can't
She's
get rid of me.
She's back. Glad to have you here. I know you filled in for Pat Kreitlow this morning. He will be back tomorrow, but you had a little Bach in the dock earlier this morning. And we started off the show talking about this, Dr. Lyerly. The GOP convention was over the weekend, and they did a big embrace, of course, of Wisconsin's 1849 abortion law, which essentially does not allow treatment for women unless they are going to die. Now, we had a caller who said, and I don't know that Cindy's wrong, is this really a big, important issue anymore? Because you were defeated by Tony Wheat. Donald Trump was reelected. We spent a lot of time talking about women's reproductive health and what this could mean under a second Trump administration, and he got resoundingly into office. So is this even something that registers with voters anymore?
I think it does, especially in this situation. This law is very, very bad. Let's remember, the only legal abortion would be in the case of the life of the mother being in danger, but that's not well defined. So how do you know? What line have they crossed? Is there some censor that goes on? No. So that makes it really hard for us to provide any health care for pregnant women in this state. It drives doctors out of the state. It already has. It makes it hard for patients to ask questions. And frankly, it makes it really scary for people to even consider getting pregnant in this state. And I know we've got listeners who have had these feelings because I've had these conversations with folks. So this just reflects how out of step the GOP in Wisconsin is with the needs of the actual people. And we're going to see that in the midterms.
Well, and I think it's really important that you pointed out, and I said this from the very beginning when it got leaked that Roe was going to be overturned. There's no codification of how close to dead do you have to be. If there was something when your blood pressure gets to this point, then she can have an abortion. If you have this level of infection, then we are allowed to treat you. But there's nothing like, there's no parameters.
Thing. Well, and it totally depends on exactly what's happening with that individual patient. I was just at the big national OBGYN weekend or conference over the weekend. 63,000 OBGYN doctors are represented by this organization. And I was talking with a colleague of mine in South Dakota, and she said that she had a patient who was bleeding. They went to their attorney in the hospital, and their attorney would not give them the freedom to take care of this patient. She bled down to a hemoglobin of 3. A normal hemoglobin is greater than 12. When your hemoglobin is 3, you have a 50% chance of dying, statistically. Do you really want your doctor to wait until you have a 50-50 chance of dying before they come in to help you? And that doesn't begin to speak to the potential problems that stem from waiting for so long. What if you end up with a blood clot or permanent heart damage because your heart has been deprived of oxygen because you didn't have enough blood, which carries your oxygen? So this reflects death, but also the morbidity that goes along with letting people get that sick so that they're on the brink of death. This is not healthcare. This is frank politics. And Jane, we're seeing this all over Wisconsin. The GOP does not care about women. They don't care about extending postpartum Medicaid to make sure that new moms have access to healthcare. They don't care about childcare. They stripped all of the support for
Yeah.
childcare out of the budget. They don't give a damn about women in this state.
But yet, they're the party of we love women and we love families and we want women to have more families. And it's just, they are so at cross purposes. And I've said this many times before as well. They don't look ahead. They don't look at potential ramifications down the road, it seems to me. Right?
It's very
just,
transactional.
It is. This makes us feel bad. We think this is wrong, so we're going to outlaw it again without looking forward at potential scenarios, different scenarios. Every pregnancy is different. Not everything works the same. It doesn't. It just doesn't.
If I had a dime for every woman who identified as a Republican and then showed up on my doorstep seeking abortion care, saying whatever, I mean, everybody's got a story and everybody's story is different. Until you are in that situation, you don't truly understand. And I hope that you are never in that situation. But it's like cancer or heart disease, any sort of a medical condition that you are facing, all you want at that time is care. You want to know what all of your options are so you
Yes.
can make your own decision for yourself. You don't want Shea Sortwell or Robin Voss deciding for you what kind of care you're going to get.
Well, and it's funny. I mean, when you say that, it makes me think to myself, well, they're going to do their best to cut cancer care and heart care and all the care too. I mean, not even just abortion, but that's not the point. What I wanted to say is, something to what Cindy, who talked about people not caring, but I want to tie it in with something you discussed during Mornings with Pat Krylo is that, and this was with Alan Tribble, what was his name? Triple?
Yes.
From Men for Choice. Is that the stunning lack of education on the matter, especially for young people. And I would say it goes for young men and young women on the matters of abortion, access, why, what happens, how it affects you, why, women need a medically induced abortion because their child is not viable. Like they're not educated on it. So I think what happens is because, especially for a young man, 25 and younger, maybe doesn't have a girlfriend, doesn't have those prospects. He just goes, it's not me. I don't care. Donald Trump. There we go. And some women were like, well, I'm never going to be in that situation. So I don't have to. Plus, I'm pro-life anyways. I'll just have the baby. I'll have the baby. It'll be perfect. So I think the educational component is one of the biggest problems, especially with young voters.
But how do we rectify that when we can't talk about
no.
sex? I mean, we don't want to. Let's not educate him about sex. Let's not tell him how not to get pregnant. Whoa, that's scary. You can't tell him that stuff.
Tell him don't have sex. That always works. That always works.
Yeah, abstinence only. Yeah.
That's why the talk with Alan this morning was so great, because this organization, Men for Choice, it's MEN, the number 4, choice.org. They go out and talk to men of all ages, but especially young men, about why this is important to them. Women understand because it's our bodies. We have periods. We have to use birth control. We get it because it's very real, but it's so different for men. And this just helps men understand what the consequences are and all of the different aspects, including the economic aspect and how it impacts you, not just now, but for the rest of your life. It's a beautiful organization that reaches a population that really needs to understand this in a very different way.
I would love to be in a hidden room off of the room where he's talking to young men about this. I cannot even imagine the question. I hope he's getting asked questions.
Well, the way that they do it is when people come in, they get trained in how to talk about these things, and then they are sent out to talk to their friends. It's relational organizing. So they're not just cold calling people and saying, tell me about your abortion story. Like, that's not going to get you anywhere.
Hey,
but
you
you can use this with any issue. When you can talk to your friends, not just about the weather or, let's go get a beer, but it's real issues that are affecting our lives, not just the headlines, but the actual stuff that happens underneath that and how it impacts us in an authentic and very personal way.
I think also something that you, with Alan being there, that, and we mentioned earlier in the show, is that when we talk about these topics, of course, we're always going to be talking about the women or the people who are pregnant, who this affects directly their bodies, but the other of this affects the women, the men, the families, the community, the state on the whole. Like it is the epicenter is, of course, the person who's pregnant, but the ripple effects, as you said, go out and touch everyone. So you can't just shrug your shoulders and say, well, I don't know.
It's not me.
Because you don't know. You don't, and those accesses, the access to that healthcare will affect the access you have to your healthcare. Because if they get rid of this, well, then what's to say they won't get rid of this access and this program and this entitlement and this money? Then, we're left with less and less and less.
Mm-hmm. We already see that. I mean, look at access to contraception, different types of contraception. People think this is an abortion. No, it's not. It prevents you from ovulating. There's so much misinformation out there. Look at TikTok. There's a whole movement that is intended to prevent women from using contraception by telling them that it's bad for their bodies. Well, for some women, it's not good for you.
Sure.
For most women, it's way better for you than an unintended pregnancy. So you need to know who you are, what your risk factors are, what the best alternatives are for you so that you can determine the best path forward.
Education is power.
Yeah.
Education is, I do not understand the idea that let's keep them ignorant because that's going to keep them safe. That seems cross purposes to me.
Let's keep them ignorant so we can continue to control them is
Yes.
what I hear.
Right there. Yep. Yeah.
And the more we talk about it here and everywhere we can and have a real conversation, the more good information gets out there. The problem is that so much information is spread. When you're doom scrolling at night before you go to bed and it's video after video, and then you end up down this rabbit hole because your algorithm is only showing you these things.
Yeah.
That is not healthy. And we need to find some sort of a way to break that so people can get different messages that challenge what they're thinking about and what they believe in.
May I suggest we rate dogs? That's a great, we're going to doom scroll. We're going to look at the news. We're going to do that. But in that tiny little moment before you go to bed, give yourself some audio sorbet. We rate dogs. It will light you up and make you smile. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. We want you uneducated so we can control you and tell you exactly what to do, because it's
And what to think.
And sometimes it's just easier because, once again, it's that idea of, I got things to do. I don't have time to research, and I don't have time to read and listen to this, that, and the other thing. So what do I tell me, Jane, what to think? Tell me.
We're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Kristen Lyerly. We have a question from Sue on the live stream about a particular case in Georgia that's getting a lot of attention. Stay with us. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll be right back.
Hey, baby.
Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvi Teeny on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up a little bit later on today on the Maggie Dawn Show from 4 to 6 o'clock. She's going to talk to the former senior advisor for rural development at the USDA, specifically about how GOP tax cuts could force rural hospitals to close, which rural hospitals in Wisconsin already having a tough time. So that will be coming up a little bit later on today with Maggie Dawn from 4 to 6 p.m. Right now, we are joined by Dr. Kristen Lyerly. She has her own show on the network on Saturdays and Sundays, Dr. Lyerly.
Saturdays and Sundays at 3 on WGBW and WISS, and of course, the amazing Civic Media app.
Yep. And how's the show going?
It's so much fun. Last week, I got to talk with Green Bay Mayor Eric Genrich. We just won this big Robert Wood Johnson culture of so many words. Culture of Health Prize in Green Bay, which really underscores all of the great work we're doing to ensure that people can live holistically and in a healthy way.
That's
so
great.
Exciting. Yeah, and then this week we're going to be talking about childcare with folks from Sheboygan, the mayor, a member of the school board, a childcare provider, people who are looking at it from all different angles, because we know childcare is under assault. It's about to lose a whole bunch of funding. It's already grossly underfunded and unavailable. This is going to make it so much worse. So we've got to continue to bang the drum and make sure that people understand childcare is in danger. And that means our families and our communities are in danger as well.
We had a comment on the live stream come in from Sue from Franklin. What about the woman in Georgia that is brain dead and being kept alive because she is 9 weeks pregnant? This is an actual case. This from MSNBC. Georgia hospital keeps brain dead pregnant woman alive because of the abortion ban. The 30-year-old was rushed to the hospital in February. She was declared brain dead at the time. She was 9 weeks pregnant. 3 months later, we are 3 months away from this. She's being kept alive with ventilators because of the strict abortion ban. Her mother says, quote, "It's torture for me. I come here and I see my daughter breathing by the ventilator, but she's not there." The woman is currently 21 weeks pregnant. They don't even know that this is a survivable infant.
Her name is Adriana Smith. She is a nurse. She is a mother. She has a 5-year-old child. And she is being kept alive on a machine because of politics. And it is unethical and deplorable that Georgia politicians are doing this to this family. Can you even imagine what they are going through?
What her family is going through, no.
Yes. And, to your point, Jane, we don't know what the outcome for this fetus is going to be. She was like 9 weeks pregnant very early when this first happened to her. So she's only 21 weeks now. She hasn't even hit that point of viability. This is such a rare situation that we have no idea what the outcome is going to be. But regardless, can you even put yourself in the shoes of these family members, of that 5-year-old child who goes to the hospital and visits his brain dead mother, who is an incubator? All she is right now is an incubator because of those reprehensible Georgia politicians.
Well,
unconscionable.
And that was going to be my next question, and forgive the non-educated whatever this is a person who has to be kept alive on a ventilator like this, is their body able to provide the nutrients and the protection, if you will, of a growing fetus? Or are the ventilators able to keep her alive to do those things? Or honestly, is what's going on with her just dooming the baby inside?
I think that is a critically important question because think about a normal, healthy pregnancy and all the things you have to do in order to ensure that you are healthy. You have to stay active. You have to eat a healthy diet. You have to treat any chronic medical conditions. This is a woman who is breathing because of a tube in her throat. She's not even able to breathe on her own. Where's her nutrition coming from? It's coming from an IV. And IV nutrition is not nearly as good as the nutrition that we eat. So her bones are not healthy. She has to be anticoagulated. She's getting a bunch of different medications that this child, this fetus is being exposed to. So yes, Greg, this is not a healthy environment for the fetus, and we have no idea what the impact will be on the fetus long term. And that's another thing that the family is going to have to deal with for the rest of this fetus, potentially this newborn's life.
Cassandra from New London is on the line. Cassandra, we're right up against the clock. If you can say what you have real quickly, please.
Hi, yeah. So I saw this story this weekend, and it's absolutely horrifying. I think I've said before when I've called, I'm a nurse that works with patients who are actually they're being managed for organ donation. So, and some of them are brain dead. So to imagine this as a nurse taking care of a patient that's brain dead and is also pregnant at the time is absolutely horrifying. And the fact that, the medications that they have to keep her on in order to even keep her body running, let alone like caring for a fetus, it's absolutely horrifying. And I can't imagine what her family's going through, especially considering like she has a son that's also watching this, and this is just absolutely horrible. And from what I've read, also they've noticed the fetus might have
fluid on the brain. Yep. Cassandra, we are up against the clock. We will continue this discussion. Dr. Lyerly, maybe we can get you on next week and we will talk about this a little bit more.
I'm always happy to come and talk with you, especially about incredibly important things like this.
We have news coming up next, and when we return, Pam Yankee will be here. We're going to talk about mental health and Wisconsin farmers. Stay with us. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Good morning, Pam. Is everything sounding okay?
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, I haven't heard Jane or anybody else yet.
You are sounding good. We come back in just over a minute.
Yep, we're good. Thanks.
Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvin Butenoff coming to you live from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us no matter where you're listening across the state. Perhaps you're in Oshkosh, listening on WISS, WBZH in Hayward, which is near Butternut, or LAK in Amory.
Amory.
You can always join us, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching in the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up in about a half an hour after the 10:30 news, a segment which has turned into what we call audio sorbet. It's an opportunity for us to take a little cleansing for your ears away from the news. So after the 10:30 news, we're going to love on our state parks. Wisconsin State Parks celebrating 125 years. We want to know about your favorite state park. And then we're going to share the best, worst reviews of Wisconsin State Parks. They're hilarious.
They'll make you feel so good.
You will die. And then we're going to wrap up the show as we always do with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today it is I'm going to mule over this edition, so stay tuned for that. Right now, though, it has been far too long since she has been on our airwaves. Our friend, she's the fabulous farm babe. She is Pam Yankee. Good morning, Pam. How are you?
Good morning, kiddo. I'm outstanding. I'm outstanding in a winter coat today, though. Surprisingly enough,
it's chilly. You are live from our Civic Media's world headquarters, overlooking State Street in Madison.
Yes.
So one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on, and we're going to get to lighter things in just a little bit, but May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and when we've had you on before, Pam, we've talked about this quite a bit when it comes to Wisconsin farmers and mental health. And we all know our farmers have had a lot of challenges. It seems like
Forever.
always. Yeah, I was going to say the last 10 years. No, it goes even beyond the last 10 years. It's always been tough for farmers. And mental health is one of those things that nobody wants to talk about. Nobody wants to talk about that they're having struggles, that they're having a tough time. What resources are available for Wisconsin farmers, Pam?
Well, and I'll tell you, Jan, it's really particularly strong to me right now after the storms that went through last week in Dodge County and some of those surrounding areas. And the reason being is right now is really crunch time for a lot of our Wisconsin farmers. They are in the middle of trying to get everything done as far as planting is concerned. Now, put on top of that the tornadoes or straight line winds, whatever they decide it is, that came through that area. I was telling somebody this morning what you don't stop and think about when you look at pictures. Now, social media has been just awash with pictures showing everything from an impaled cow that got caught with a 2x4 right on through to just absolutely demolished barns. And that's tragic. Always tragic. Anytime something like that happens to anybody, farmer or not, it's tragic.
Yep.
But then you stop and think about the prolonged mental stress that farm's going to be under. Stop and think how many farms, when you drive out in Wisconsin these days, you see barns, right? But not all barns have animals in them. Not all barns have plumbing or water or electricity. Definitely don't have milking equipment. So now my barn's gone. Where am I going to take all these cows so that they can get milk twice a day. There's stressor number one. If I happen to have neighbors nearby that have space, now I may have the couple of the barns where we're milking more than a couple hundred cows, family farms that we're milking a couple hundred cows. Now I may have cows at 3 different locations. Now I have to coordinate milk pickup. I have to coordinate milking those cows, veterinary checks. And where did the feed go? When that storm came through, all of my feed likely disappeared with it. And if you take a look outside these days, folks, there's not a lot of things growing that we're going to be able to feed our cows and keep them going. That's why I really think it's important to remind people about the available resources for mental health. You lean on your neighbors are there. The casserole parade is already unfolded. But then there's those moments where you have to say, how am I going to pick myself up, dust myself off, and keep going? And that's why Wisconsin, since the pandemic, I believe really amplified what we've been doing as far as resources for Wisconsin farmers. Now we're almost to the point where it's a maze of, oh my God, I've got all these toll-free numbers, but what do you do? Somebody told me the other day, and I think it's a very, very wise, before you start telling somebody to reach out, call that resource and find out what you're really getting at the end of that phone line.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got a toll-free number, but do they really know agriculture? Do they really know the stressors that you are going through? Whether it's tomorrow we're going to get 1 to 2 inches of rain, that's going to kick us out of the fields. If I'm not even started, that's a stressor. Bring about real life challenges like alcohol, drugs. We're getting older. Now my physical body can't do what I need it to do. All of that mounts. So I always remind people I feel most confident about the Wisconsin Department of Ag, Trade, and Consumer Protection. They have the Farmer Hotline, which I will be giving you the 800 number there. And that really gives a kind of a palette of services for farms. So they'll help you with financial resources if you're struggling to figure out how to pay bills or how to manage debt. They'll also help you with herd health. That's something that nobody talks about. When you are America's Dairyland, a lot of your stress comes from, why can't I fix this with my dairy cows?
Right.
What in the world is wrong here? So they help with that. They also have counseling that's available, and they work through other challenges like transition. How am I going to get the next generation to come along with me? And the dynamics of family business, which is really what 99% of our farms are. Now, that number is 800-942-2474. 800-942-2474. And that one is available basically during business hours, but they always will get back to you. And that's one thing I always like to remind people is they will get back to you. And then there's the other side of things. As I said, when you get older or you're physically becoming more challenged, now they've started, since the pandemic, a farmer wellness hotline, and that will allow for remote vouchers. So,
that's a great idea.
I just talked to Jess Beauchamp, who is the coolest chick. She is the one that you will likely catch when you call for the Farmer Wellness Helpline. And so Jess is currently building a house right near my home farm, ironically enough. And yet we've never met, which is hard to say about Abrams, north of Green Bay. But anyhow, so what she was telling me is she is finding more and more farms that are comfortable using a voucher system if they need resources. Because the last thing you want to ask a farmer to do is leave the farm to go to a session. So these can be virtual. And the other thing that they found is, I think she said once a month, they will get together online and just talk. They'll have one farmer that maybe has been in kind of the conversations a little longer, act as the catalyst to get things started.
Oh.
And then they go and you decide what's going to be discussed. Now, farmer to farmer, that's where the groove, that's where the magic really happens, getting them to do that. And the Farmer Wellness Hotline is 888-901-2558. 888-901-2558. And that's a 24/7 gig. Now, it's not that Jess is propping your eyelids open with toothpicks to be there, but we've got an arrangement with Iowa, for example, Minnesota. They've got similar services. So if it's
somebody's going to pick up
on him. So those are the two main ones that I know, that I am confident about, that I feel good referencing others. Now, there's many other groups that we are fortunate to have around. somebody in Sauk County lived through a husband's suicide, had farmed all his life, had challenges with depression all his life, finally took his life. And the church community in the Sauk County community stepped in and said, hey, we got to do this. These are our neighbors. So they have the Farmer Angel Network.
We had them on the show.
Yeah. And I'm just, those people are so wonderful, and how it is morphed into so much more. And again, that's a farmer to farmer, completely confidential always, farmer to farmer kind of conversation that happens. They just got done with a series of spring meetings to try to get everybody feeling better as they went to the fields. Because as you alluded to at the outset, Jane, the unfortunate part about the audience that I love is they rank near the top in the nation of suicide victims. Farming is not only one of the most dangerous occupations still, even with technology, it is also, unfortunately, one of the number one suicide categories. And it's because it's still largely dominated by men.
Yep.
Men don't talk. Men don't share. Men are super steal. And then, and on the farm, we've got guns. We've got heavy machinery. We've got all kinds of ways that we can make it look like an accident if we want. And that's what I hear from insurance agents is when somebody calls them and says, I want to know about my life insurance policy. Red flag.
Yeah.
Red flag. Why are you asking this? And they will do some triage to see what's going on and ask maybe the question, are you thinking about suicide? And that's a trigger, because, you know, what they're trying to do is make sure that I'm going to make it look like an accident and set up the farm. So these are the conversations.
If you're just joining us, Pam Yankee is our guest. She is the fabulous farm babe. You can hear her reports and her colleagues' reports across Civic Media. And we're talking about mental health, especially May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and especially about Wisconsin farmers. We will include those numbers that you gave us, Pam, in our show notes. Greg will make sure that they're in our show notes. All I can think, too, is one of the groups that you mentioned, farmer to farmer, having farmer to farmer conversations has really got to be the way to go.
Oh, you definitely see response. And it also helps regardless of demographics. Let's recognize that Wisconsin farmers, although not as old as the national average, let's say the average Wisconsin farm is, mid 50s, but you may have young farmers that are in a different situation. They've got a growing family, or they're dealing with the stress of that transition. Mom and dad don't want to get out of the way, but I want to farm. To be able to have different groups dealing with different items or circulating through different items and in a non-judgmental way, talking with each other, that has turned out, as according to Jess Beauchamp, turned out to be very, very valuable to them. And they seem to work. And like I said, they can do it on their time. If Jess wants to go to bed, for example, they can have a conversation after chores are done at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that's got to make all the difference, really. And what you mentioned, Pam, about that is in all of the years I've been doing this and in all the storm reporting that I've done over the years, I never once thought about somebody's barn getting destroyed. And what if you milked in that barn? And what do you do with those cows that still have to get milked? They don't care there was a storm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and also, go on, Pam, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, I know that many people have seen the news reports and that the very emotional. I mean, listen, whether you want to believe it or not, if she's got a name or a number, I know that cow.
Yeah.
If I have to euthanize that cow, that is a mentally, you think it's bad losing your dog or cat? People, I've spent half a generation trying to bring this cow into my herd. And just watching the animals, I think, is probably the most difficult for any dairy farmer to handle. And like I said, this is just the beginning of their path to recovery. And it ain't going to happen overnight. And the casseroles are going to disappear, and they're still going to have to be figuring out what next to get those cows home.
Reach out for help. Help is available. Please don't keep it to yourself. Find someone to talk to. Check our show notes, civicmedia.us. Go to shows, click on Matenaer On Air. Everything will be right there. We're going to continue our conversation with Pam Yankee on the other side. Stay with us. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll be right back.
then she starts to cry. She takes a swing, man. She can't help. She don't mean no harm. She just don't know what else to do about it. Jane said, Jane said, ooh.
Good morning and welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and the Board Lord coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine, where you can always join us. Give us a call, send in a text at 855-752-4842. You can also leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. After the 10:30 news, audio sorbet, we are going to talk about our state parks and which one is your favorite. And then we're going to share some of the best, worst state park reviews. They're hilarious.
They're wonderful.
They are too much grass. Too much. It was a great state park. Too much grass. I don't understand the grass. So that's all coming up after 10:30. Right now, though, Pam Yankee is here. She is the fabulous farm babe, and you hear her reports across Civic Media. And we had a text come in specifically for you, my friend.
Yes, Carol from Waukesha, listening to WAUK, says, please let Pam know what a treasure she is. She is an amazing advocate for farmers and agriculture as well as a tremendous educator for those of us unfamiliar with the issues farmers face. Now, I'm glad Carol said that because that leads me into my question of guidance. Now, I suggest everyone listen to the Midwest Farm Report every morning from 5 to 6 right here on Civic Media, whether it's Pam Yankee, Stephanie Hoff, or Ben Jarbo talking about the things that are important about farmers. But, you know, Pam, I didn't grow up in the farm. I grew up in the suburbs. I don't have farmers in my family. Where would people go to get just your basic information besides your show on what's going on our farms in Wisconsin and what is going on with our farmers themselves, just so we're, you know, more educated and understand? Because a lot of people think farms, that's way out in the country. No, it's 10 minutes west of you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially in Wisconsin. Yeah, you're right. In fact, we were kind of talking about that. I was with a young man that's 21 and same background, zip on agriculture. And I walked him through and I said, literally Wisconsin is still very fortunate that you don't have to drive very far before you find your first farm. It may look different. It may be more of a vegetable or produce, but they're there. And I kind of speak to all of them. Like I said, I kind of make sure I'm very careful about what I advise people to tap into because there's so much out there.
Right.
So I always encourage you, please, Midwest Farm Report on all the platforms on our website, because at least I know that's a vetted source and what you get is going to be verified. There's a lot of social media streams. I like to watch what's happening with the Wisconsin Farm Bureau Federation, Wisconsin Farmers Union. If you're an issues-driven person, if you're curious, I see some people that asked about state legislature doing some things. That would be the best place to kind of walk along there. I routinely talk to Senator Pat Teston, who's the current chair of the Senate Agriculture and Revenue Committee. Then we've got Howard Markline, who's joined finance but comes from farming. So some of those individuals may post things on occasion. The National Association of Farm Broadcasters does a good job of trying to get stuff out too. One site that I really think for just tidbits that will get you thinking, Wisconsin Ag in the Classroom. Now, it's designed for school kids, but I don't want to condescend to the audience, but given the lack of understanding a lot of folks or exposure people may have had to agriculture, those little tidbits might be thought starters that you never imagined.
Great place to start. Yeah.
Just look for Wisconsin Ag in the Classroom, and it will give you little pieces of information on all of Wisconsin agriculture. My background is in dairy, but think about cranberries and ginseng and things that you would have to travel to see if you wanted to see. And the Wisconsin Ag in the Classroom program does it really wonderfully. The other thing I like about it is they've got hands-on learning. It's designed for teachers. And what they do is they give teachers lesson plans that can also include teaching kids how to make butter, teaching kids how to do in the classroom cheese making in a Ziploc. I mean, just if you think as an adult going through the process and, oh yeah, I never thought about salt, or I never thought about this, or I never thought about a flavor, it does help you kind of get connected, if you will.
Yeah.
So, those are some sources.
And I want to remind everybody, too, that, speaking of the Wisconsin Farmers Union, we have Darren Von Ruden.
We do this all the time. We screw up his name all the time.
Darren Von Ruden, who is the president on the first Wednesday of every month, to be on the show to talk about those issue-driven ideas and those notions that are affecting farmers. And also, Pat Kreitlow has Hans Breitenmoser on as well. So there are plenty of resources, but this is great, Pam. And I'll go through some of those and I will get them linked in the show notes so people can, and I don't think it's condescending at all to tell people, hey, if you don't know anything, start where the kids start, at the beginning.
Yeah,
and educate
that's a great
yourself.
idea.
Well, and like I said, they're short because if you're not in it, your attention span to it isn't going to be all that great to begin with. And like I said, in this day and time, there is so much content out there, but it's generally like if you go to social media, somebody's got a point they're trying to make.
Yeah.
I always want to make sure that I'm providing you just a whole lot of options, but verified options that are news-driven, fact-driven, so that you can make your own decisions. And like I said, Ag in the Classroom, start with the tidbits. Start with the little bits that you can share with somebody else at the water cooler, as they used to say.
Now I want to make cheese in here. Now I want to make Matenaer On Air cheese.
You guys want to make cheese in a bag?
There you go.
We're going to check that out. We're going to start there. We're going to make cheese.
That sounds like a real Gouda idea.
Oh, I like that. Pam Yankee is the fabulous farm babe. So good to see you. Thank you so very much, my friend. Take care.
Always
we'll
my
have you back
pleasure.
on in a few.
Absolutely.
Good to see you. News is coming up next, and then when we return, let's love on our Wisconsin state parks. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Let's go. Take me down to Junior's. Down to Junior's farm. Let's go. Let's go. Down to Junior's farm. Let's go. Take me down to Junior's. Down to Junior's farm. Everybody tag along. Tag along. Take me down to Junior's farm.
Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Sweet Cal B on the board. Coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. That's 855-75-CIVIC. Or leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. We do have baseball coming up a little bit later on today. Our broadcast starts at 6:05. The Crew hosting the Orioles. You can catch the game tonight on WRCE in Richland Center, WISS in Oshkosh, WRJN here in Racine and Kenosha, WCQM in Park Falls, and WBZH in Hayward. The Crew hosting the Orioles tonight. Our broadcast starts at 6:05. Go Crew.
Yeah.
Saw this article and thought it would be an opportunity for us to love on our state parks. This from the Wisconsin Public Radio, Joel Patnoud with the byline, much loved and underfunded. Wisconsin state parks celebrate 125 years. Thanks to revenue sharing and volunteers, that's essentially what keeps our parks open.
Yes.
We have 50 state parks. So what is your favorite state park in Wisconsin? 855-752-4842. Your favorite state park in Wisconsin. Which one is it? We want to know. What do you love to do there? What's so great about it? And then we're going to share some of the best, worst reviews.
It's amazing.
Of
They're
Wisconsin
so fun.
state parks. Do you have a favorite?
I am not going to lie. I don't have a ton of exposure to Wisconsin state parks, but I always love Devil's Lake Park. It's just beautiful. There's a lot of walk. It's
unique too.
It's very unique. It's sought after. People go there all the time. And it's just a cool place to go and relax and hang out. I mean, like all good parks. I mean, all parks are wonderful, but Devil's Lake is just, I have to go back there.
855-752-4842. What is your favorite state park in Wisconsin? 855-75-CIVIC. I think about all the ones around Bayfield, the Apostle Islands. I mean, the Apostle Islands State Park.
Yeah.
That whole area is kind of like one big park.
Bayfield is just, I mean, I would love to get up there and just spend some time.
You would love Bayfield.
I want to really visit northwestern Wisconsin because the stories I hear, and I know Tony is up in Ashland, and it's just,
it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
We are blessed with unbelievable nature here.
Yeah.
We really are
Very, very
in Wisconsin. And depending upon where you go around the state, you get something a little bit different all over the place.
Absolutely.
855-752-4842. What is your favorite Wisconsin state park? I have friends who would always go to Copper Falls.
Ooh.
Or the Flowage. The Flowage.
Welcome to the Flowage.
Well, as it could be a movie.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Flowage. Casper in Madison texting in Peninsula State Park. Absolutely gorgeous. The best sunset in the entire state.
Well, then.
That's pretty high praise.
Jess in Dane County listening in WAUK. Thank you for listening, Jesse. Amacon Falls. You can swim in. And you can swim in, on, and around waterfalls. Okay.
I've never heard of that.
Sign me up. I'm looking it up right now because I just love the idea of like wading into water.
Waterfalls.
And then there's waterfalls around.
Amnicon Falls.
Amnicon?
Amnicon.
Right there. Okay.
Amnicon Falls. Greg's doing a search for that, Jesse. I like that one. Sarah in Green Bay, Governor Thompson and Governor Earl, Peshtigo River area. Tons to do there. Fish, swim, go on the Marinette County Waterfall Tour.
I mean, Peshtigo is gorgeous area. It's wonderful. I mean, it's so relaxing in Peshtigo.
Did we find Amnicon?
Amnicon is right smack almost at the top of Wisconsin. It's like you could look over and be like, hey, what's up, Minnesota? You're right there. It's west of Ashland and Ironwood.
Okay.
And I mean,
that's kind of on the way to Bayfield,
yeah,
sort of.
It's those places where you're like, it's around Rock Mountain, Cutter, and you're like, I've never heard of any of these places. I'm trying to find I mean, Ashland, of course, is going to be the closest thing I've heard of, but yeah, it is almost at the Wisconsin-Minnesota boundary waters.
Oh, I bet it's so beautiful.
I bet you Jane, just think of this right now for a moment. You're in Amnicon Falls State Park. You're camping.
Yeah.
And you're looking up at the sky.
At the billions of stars.
Exactly. I love space.
855-752-4842. Wisconsin State Parks celebrating 125 years. Which is your favorite state park? Where do you go every year? Can't miss out.
Yeah.
Gotta go. Maybe a camp, maybe a glamp. I would glamp.
I would totally glamp. I feel like if I camped, Jane, I would just be like, why am I always moist when I'm camping? I'm always just slightly wet. I'm always just like,
I feel damp.
Yes, that's the perfect word. I'm just constantly damp
Am I
when I'm
molding?
camping. Yeah.
855-752-4842. Ollie from the Northwoods is on the line. Good morning, Ollie. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Somebody else stole my thunder, but our family has family picnics at Amnicon Falls, and it's a wonderful place. You can hike, you can bike, the kids go down by the falls while the adults get a chance to visit. And we even had one of our little bit older, in his 30s, possibly 40s, out panning for gold last year at Amnicon Falls. And he found a couple of little small bits of gold.
Really?
Yes. So we always enjoy Amnicon Falls and miss our dad who loved to go there.
Oh, that's awesome, Ollie. Hey, that's high praise for Amnicon Falls. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Ollie. Thank you for listening.
I looked it up. It's about 6 hours away from where I live, so maybe just get you
road trip.
Maybe a Civic Media road trip here. Cassandra on the live stream says, I grew up going to Devil's Lake because it was only 20 minutes away. I've grown to love High Cliff State Park outside of Appleton. There's another one. I mean, I'm just going to hear about parks I've never heard of. And then Alicia on the live stream says, I used to live down the road from 12-Foot Falls.
Ooh.
There you go.
We have Shishu also in the live stream. I love going to Huffman Hills in the spring for the beautiful ponds. And in the fall to climb the tower, you can see colors for miles.
That's amazing. Oh, can you imagine that in fall?
Oh,
and
it must
autumn?
be so beautiful.
Gosh.
Favorite state parks. We're loving on our state parks, celebrating 125 years. No thanks to the government. 855-75-CIVIC. Where's your favorite place in Wisconsin? Cindy from Appleton checking in. Good morning, Cindy. What do you think about best state parks?
Well, the best one for me is High Cliff State Park because it's close to home and it's part of the Niagara Escarpment and has a lot of history.
Nice.
And I think it's just a shame that the so-called conservatives who are supposed to be conserving have decided that our state parks are not worth funding anymore. And I just think shame, shame, shame on them.
Well, and thank goodness for all the volunteers, Cindy, because even in this article, it essentially says revenue sharing and volunteers are what have managed to keep our state parks open. And we have 50 state parks in Wisconsin. So thank God for volunteers. If you're looking for something to do, you can volunteer to Wisconsin State Park. I'm sure they're looking for you. Thank you, Cindy, for checking in. I appreciate that.
You know what, Jane? I have some worst park reviews here for you.
We have the best of the worst.
The best of the worst.
The best of the worst park reviews. This is from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.
Yeah, this was an article. We've covered this before. We could not, of course, get through all of them, but this was an article written by, I believe, hold on, my mouse is failing
Drew
me.
Dawson.
Thank you. Drew Dawson was the writer of this wonderful article, and he scoured the internet for the best, worst reviews of Wisconsin state parks. And I'm going to start right at, I mentioned it earlier, Devil's Lake State Park. Quote, this is a review left on their website, so you can check it out yourself. I'm not making this up.
Yep.
Quote, I have never paid money to see rocks. Was disappointing. They wanted $16 for a day pass.
Well,
what do you expect?
That's what makes Devil's Lake so unique are the rock formations. They do rock climbing out there.
This is a great review. I love this one. It's also about Devil's Lake State Park. Usual state park, nothing really to set it apart from the rest. Lake, camping, that's about it.
What are you looking for?
Did you want to dance and dinner? Did you want some theater too? Ooh, Brigadoon's on stage.
Best of the worst reviews of Wisconsin state parks. 855-752-4842. Also about Devil's Lake. I would not recommend this park to anyone who wants to enjoy the outdoors peacefully. Leave this park to the drunks and inconsiderate rubes or camp in the winter. It does get really populated out there. Devil's Lake is one of the most popular.
Yeah.
But the cell signal is terrible.
Yeah.
You're at a state park.
Well, Jane, I need to make phone calls and or look at TikTok, so I need more cell towers in my state park.
What is your favorite state park in Wisconsin? 855-752-4842. Bob from Madison is on the line. Good morning, Bob. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, good morning. I'm a big fan of the state parks. My wife and I like to travel a lot, and up in that part of the state around Amacon, there's also Pattison State Park, which is a very pretty park. And a quick fun fact on that park is that Big Manitou Falls, it's I believe the fourth largest waterfall east of the Mississippi, and it's only 6 inches shorter than Niagara Falls.
Really?
So, little fun fact, yeah. And a great park up there also is Copper Falls State Park, which they have this beautiful trail that you can walk. You don't have to be, incredibly, Mr. and Mrs. Hiker.
Right.
But it's, any level of, outdoorsiness will get you around this beautiful trail around a couple of waterfalls and a few rapids. So there's just beautiful parks everywhere.
Really appreciate that, Bob. I want you to hear this. These are the best of the worst reviews of Wisconsin state parks. And my sister and I were at Copper Park Falls a couple of years ago. It's gorgeous. Here is what they had to say about Copper Falls. The forest management of this park is horrible. How hard to see around all the overgrowth. Typical overemphasis on letting nature just take over. Hoping someone can get into the system and change this culture of just letting nature be nature.
And this next one for Copper Falls is more of a you problem than a them problem. The darn directions took us to Pierre, South Dakota. This park is in Wisconsin.
What?
Never trusting Google Maps ever again. By the way, yes, Google Maps still thinks this place is in Pierre, South Dakota. Maybe you should review Google Maps and not the state park.
Governor Dodge State Park, again, these are the best of the worst reviews of Wisconsin State Park. Governor Dodge State Park, the raccoons are fearless and numerous. Meh.
Meh.
And this has got to be the best of the worst. 2 all caps.
Yeah.
2 all
yes.
Exclamation point
There
at
it
the end
is.
of every word.
Yeah.
Too much grass. Get rid of it.
Noted. Bob also mentioned Pattison State Park. They had some reviews as well. Quote, don't bother if you have a dog. I've never seen so many no dog allowed signs before.
Well, you want to check that before you take the dog to the park.
Yeah.
Maybe do that ahead of time.
Yeah. And I think, and this is the best one. Mirror Lake State Park before we go. Quote, just go to Devil's Lake.
Okay. All right then. Too much grass. Get my grass out of my state parks.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy.
More cell towers.
Coming up next, this shouldn't be a thing. Muling it over edition. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. We have a couple more comments I wanted to share. We were talking about let's love on our state parks. Absolutely. Wisconsin State Parks celebrating 125 years. So we were taking your favorite state parks to check out. Kirk from Eau Claire says Perro State Park in Trempealeau, hiking goat trails on the face of the bluffs. You can see the Mississippi River for miles. Bob from Richland Center listening on WRCE. I don't have a favorite state park. They're all great, but I do want to thank our forefathers for their foresight, setting these natural treasures aside for everyone to enjoy.
Yep.
As of today.
It's almost like they thought they were important to protect, Jane.
Liz from Saukville, Kohler Andre State Park. We took a trip there as kids in grade school. The beautiful lake, the dunes, bird and wildflower walks, stargazing, and so much more. Lori in Hayward. Ollie forgot to mention the wonderful pavilion in Amacon Falls Park. Dozens of picnic tables, covered shelter, electricity, a perfect place for family picnics. And the kids can swim right by the falls.
Nice.
That sounds great. It is 10:54 Calvin. That means it is time for
This Shouldn't Be a Thing.
And as always, if you have a thing you think should not be, send it in to Greg and me at Jane Says at civicmedia.us, JANESAYS, Jane Says at civicmedia.us. This from the Associated Press. Calvin found this one. The headline reads, Burro Racing wins over runners in backcountry ode to mining history. They're racing donkeys.
Okay. All
essentially.
Right. Yeah, all right.
This is from Morgan Lee in the Associated Press. Cerrillos, New Mexico. Backcountry runners are embracing the physical and emotional challenge of racing with pack burros that don't always move at their pace. This race honoring the Old West.
It just sounds like you want to run with donkeys.
You have to pull a donkey. Essentially, the burros must carry a saddle, a pick, and a pan, and a shovel in homage to the old mining days. And then they are led by these miners. They have to sprint with their burros to the finish line. 70 teams competed. 70.
All I'm going to say is poor donkeys. Because this didn't have to happen. There was no...
the burros weren't calling for this.
No, not at all. And it just seems like someone said, hey, you know what we should do to recognize and honor the old ways?
The Old West.
Let's just do something that gives us a reason to party, get drunk, and be a quote-unquote contest.
Are we sure this didn't happen in Milwaukee?
Is this our running of the bulls?
It's the running of the burros.
Oh, God, we just are not what God intended.
Marvin Sandoval of Leadville, Colorado, and his mini burro named Buttercup finished first on Saturday, completing the course in just over 49 minutes. Hundreds of cheering spectators lined the street, with his nearest competitors not even in sight. He says the secret to his success... He calls Buttercup, she's like a unicorn. She wants to be out front. A burro race can devolve into a contest of wills when they decide they don't want to do that.
Oh, I just want to see all of them not want to do that. They'll just sit there going, no.
Experienced racers say that doesn't mean their donkeys are being stubborn. They are smart and naturally curious. If something scares them and it makes them nervous, they're just going to stop and check it out.
Yeah.
Healthy donkeys typically live 40 years or more, and they're supposed to be from. And I follow some people who have rescue farms, where they've taken in donkeys and burros, and they are supposed to be the sweetest animals.
I just want to pet
the sweetest animals. Burro racing emerged shortly after World War II in depopulated Colorado mining towns. It is now an official state heritage sport, with the marquee races in Leadville, Buena Vista, and Fairplay, blending county fair cheer and athleticism.
No. Nope.
You're you're running, you're pulling the donkey.
I'll tell you what, we'll call this athleticism when you, the human, are pulling a donkey in a cart. That's athleticism. Until then, you are literally just sitting there going, go, and enjoying.
Come on.
I have turned into old man Bach on this one. I do not like this. I think it's no, forget it. We hey, you want to celebrate the old days? Go to a museum. Read a book.
You can do that too.
Don't need to ride a donkey.
Leave the burros alone.
Yes.
That wraps up today's episode of
This Shouldn't Be a Thing.
Coming up on the show tomorrow, he is back from his vacation. Pat Kreitlow will be joining us after the 9:30 news. I hope you can join us for that. Thank you, Greg and Calvin, all of our engineers and everyone at Civic Media. Without all of you, nothing works. And thank you most of all for calling and for texting and for listening. It absolutely means the world. I hope you find some joy today and you have the chance to share it. Keep it right here. News is coming up next, followed by Tom Hartman from 11 to 2, Todd Alba 2 to 4, Maggie Dawn 4 to 6, Pete Schwaba and Nightlight from 6 to 8 p.m. Have a great day. We will see you tomorrow. News is next on the Civic Media Radio Network.